Good morning, good evening, and good day. Thank you so much for watching Attack Power Gaming. Today we're going over the best AT guns in Steel Division 2. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing for more Steel Division 2 content. And if you really enjoy this, please consider joining me on Patreon and supporting these videos and getting some cool coaching and other stuff. Let's dive right in. So here we are with the guns I've selected for our best AT gun in the game. Now, I did actually limit the point spread here between 45 and 70 points. There are lighter AT than that, heavier AT than that. Problem is, once you get out to those extremes, it really comes down to more of like a niche role for those. They're really not like all-purpose AT guns at that point. You know, your really big ones are really designed specifically for killing the heavier tanks of the game, and the smaller things are really designed just for killing armored cars and transports and things like that. These ones here are really the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes, the main line AT guns that you're going to kind of want in any division where it's available. So that's the reason I went with these and not some of the other options that are obviously available in game. We're also going to be focusing on the AP rounds. I will mention the APCR and I'll mention HE capabilities because that does affect their usage significantly. But the main thing I want to be worried about is the weapon they're going to be firing most often, which is those AP shells, because of the numbers they get compared to the other ones and exactly what their role is. So that's why we're focusing on these right here. So let's dive right in here. A little zoom. Sorry about that. Let's start with the Commonwealth weapon of choice. Also, this comes up in most of the American divisions. The 6-pounder 57mm for Americans, they just call it the 57mm. It has 115 millimeters of penetration. For the APCR, I believe it is 170 millimeters or 75 of penetration. 6 damage, has a 50% accuracy and 1500 meter range with a 12 rounds per minute and a 6-man strength at 50 points. Solid weapon. It has no HE cells. Something to notice: the APCR are more accurate, do less damage, and have a shorter range. That's the general theme for all APCR shells. Continuing on here, we have our other Western Ally weapon here, and this is a little more niche. It only shows up in 2 American divisions. This is the M5 gun 76mm. Its AP shells do 130 millimeters of penetration. The APCR have 185. It does also have HE shells, which are quite effective. 8 damage with the normal AP, 45% accuracy, a range of 1750 meters, and 8 rounds per minute with a 7-man crew at 65 points. So very solid overall there. And same rules with the APCR apply to all these. The ZIS-2, ZIS-3, the most common anti-tank gun found in the Russian divisions. We're looking at 105 millimeter penetration for the AP shells at 8 damage, 45% accuracy, 1500 meter range with 10 rounds per minute, and a 7-man crew. The APCR penetrates up to 135 millimeters of penetration. The HE shells are cool because they have infinite infinite range. Zooming down here to the ZIS-2, we have 120 millimeters of penetration, 6 damage, 50% accuracy, 1750 meters range, 12 rounds a minute, and 6 strength. The APCR shells can penetrate all the way up to, I believe, 180 millimeters, which is quite significant, but of course, again, a shorter range and such, and lower damage. Getting over to the Axis divisions here, we have the PAK-38 50mm gun. It has 100 millimeters of penetration, 6 damage, 50% accuracy, 1500 meters range, and only 5 crew at 12 rounds per minute. The APCR shells get up to 150 millimeters of penetration, I believe 1000 meters of range. Feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. Could be 1250, but I think it's 1000. Coming down here, a very niche one. This is only found in Group Toulon, so I'm not going to bring it up too much, but it is 50 points. The PAK-36R has 130 millimeters of penetration at 8 damage, 40% accuracy, 8 rounds per minute. It has a, I believe, 1750 meter range. I left that on, sorry, with the HE shells being infinite, and a 5-man crew. Coming over here, we have probably the most common Axis AT gun. The PAK-40 75mm has 145 millimeters of penetration, 8 damage, 45% accuracy, 1750 meters range, 10 rounds per minute with a 7-man crew. And finally, we have only shows up in two divisions, two Romanian divisions here. The Rashica 75 millimeter gun here, 160 millimeters of penetration, 8 damage, 45% accuracy. It has 2,000 meter range on those AP shells, 15 rounds per minute. I don't believe that. I think that's for HE. I think it only has 10 for normal. And then 7 strength. So that's our quick rundown of the 8 options I have here. So let's go left to right here. The 6-pounder really tends to underperform. That 115 millimeters of penetration does the job, but it doesn't do the job very well. The 1500 meter range is a little frustrating as well, because Axis tanks such as the Stug and the Panzer IV, which would be main targets of this weapon, can technically outrange this thing. So if this gets caught out or they see them, they can simply sit outside of this thing's range and kill it quite effectively. Now, the bonus of this is that nice 12 round per minute, quite a high accuracy of 50%, but it has no HE, which is very disappointing. It is only 50 points though, so it gets the job done, but you're going to find this bounces a lot, especially against allied armor with 100 millimeters of frontal armor. This is really tough at max range. It's really not going to pen. Coming down here, the M5 gun is very powerful. It's very solid. 130 millimeters of penetration will punch through mostly anything, even some of the heavier tanks in the game, such as the Tiger and Panther, at closer ranges, let me be clear. It does have the APCR shells, and this does as well. So this does allow it to do some more damage to stuff, but it has to be closer, of course. The 1750 meters range is really nice, and the HE shells are quite solid on this weapon, but it is only 8 rounds per minute, which is a little bit restrictive, and the 45% accuracy is obviously lower than 50%. The ZIS 3 is a very average gun. The 105 millimeters of penetration on the AP shells really is not super effective. It's kind of a hard time killing things like Shermans and stuff, and Stugs and things at range. That's going to be a low penetration percentage. Now the APCR shells definitely fix that a little bit with the 130 millimeters of pen, but they got to be closer. The big thing, this is actually almost more of a support gun, because you get that HE shell that can go like any distance, and it does a solid amount of damage. These are really good infantry support weapons that can coincidentally basically kill tanks all right, and they are only 45 points, which is quite cheap. I mean, that's the cheapest on here, other than the Pak 38. So, and it does get 7 strength, so it lasts a long time. So these are very solid guns, but don't expect them to be knocking out tanks left and right. And you can see here it has indirect fire, so like it doesn't. You can just kind of like, it's an artillery piece for all intents and purposes. The ZIS 2 is a much more solid in terms of actually killing tanks weapon. It's AP shells with 120 millimeters of pen that will penetrate basically all medium armor pretty consistently. And it gets the 1750 meter range, which is really quite important. It lets it reach out to all medium armor and match it range, pound for pound. The APCR shells penetrate quite well at 180 millimeters of penetration, so they can be quite dangerous. This is a nice rate of fire as well at 12 rounds per minute, but it basically suffers the same issues as the 6-pounder, where you don't get any HE. So this is very specific in its role. It's only 50 points, so it is quite cheap, and it is a solid upgrade. I mean, technically it's the same cost as the 6-pounder, but it's just better. It's just straight up better in every way. So I mean, it's a significant upgrade over the 6-pounder. Going over here to the Axis side, the Pak 38, the actual AP shells are very lackluster. 100 millimeters does okay, but not great. It's rarely going to kill a medium tank with those. It's going to struggle. Now, the APCR shells with 150 millimeters of penetration are quite effective, but they have to be much closer to use those, so just be aware. But it will penetrate most things with those APCR shells, which is quite good. It does only have 5 men in the strength in the crew, though, so they do die quite quickly. But they are cheap, 45 points. No HE shells as well. Then you come down here to this gun, and again, this gun is really niche. It's really, really good. I mean, it's penetrating 130 millimeters with its normal AP shells for only 50 points. It's got a slower fire rate and a lower accuracy. Those are two things to keep in mind. The Pak 40 is fantastic. It's only 60 points. Which is 10 points more than, the ZIS 2 and the Pak 36 and the 6-pounder, but you get a lot more penetration for that. You have a solid 10 rounds per minute. The accuracy is 45%. You get the 1750 meter range, so it's a little less accurate, but you get that extra 250 millimeters of range. And then you get they're not the best HE shells, but they get the job done. And the APCR shells are 190 millimeters of penetration, I believe, so they can punch through anything but a King Tiger. So this is a very effective weapon. I mean, you're going to want to take these in most Axis divisions. It can kill any tank on the battlefield very effectively. There's really nothing other than a King Tiger that this cannot kill efficiently. For 60 points, it up kills all the time. It's absolutely great. And then you have the Rashitsa, which is a phenomenal weapon at 160 millimeters of penetration on its base AP shell. It has 2,000 meter range, and it also gets the HE shells, which are really, really effective. Now, it is on the upper end of the price here at 70 points, but it also gets indirect fire. So which of these is the king of these AT weapons? I'm gonna have to go with the Rashitsa down here. Now it is arguable because again it's 70 points instead of say the cheapest one, which is 50 points or 45 for the even lighter stuff. But this thing is so dangerous, so incredibly dangerous. Both of these down here, the Pak 40 and the Rashitsa, really significantly outperform all the other weapons on this, except for maybe the M5 gun. This thing is really quite dangerous as well. But you're gonna see the Pak 40 all the time. You're rarely gonna run into this thing. You know, these two weapons, and the Rashitsa is also, you're not going to run into it all the time. It's only in 2 Romanian divisions. You know, the Pak 40 is what you're going to run into the most often, and these things are very, very dangerous. They need to be killed. The Rashitsa is absolutely phenomenal at that 2,000 meter range. It can reach out and kill anything in the game other than basically, again, a King Tiger. It even has a chance of penning IS-2s depending on the model and the range. Zis-2s are very effective as well. I mean, these are good tank killers. They don't have the HE support though, which is kind of sad. You know, these two, the Zis-3 again is more of a support gun than anything, if we're being honest with ourselves. The Pak 38 almost falls into the light AT category, but it is noticeably stronger than the other light AT, like at the 45 mils is what I'm really talking about. So that's why it pushes into this category, but it's obviously on the weak end of this scale, and it does not have those HE support. The 6-pounder, I mean, kills stuff, it shoots fast, but I always am upset and disappointed when using these things. They do not kill as much as I feel like they should. But yeah, Zis-3s I do enjoy. They're not super commonly used, but they can be effective. They just don't kill tanks very consistently, which is kind of what they're supposed to do. So that's the issue with these. So if I had to crown a king here, it would be the Rashitsa down here, but the Pak 40 is a close runner up second, and you're obviously, this is way more common and 10 points less. So yeah, and I think, yeah, it has a better availability curve as well. These you can only get 246 or 248. These are 3, 5, and then 8, I believe. So, you know, there is something to be said about the availability for these as well. So, those are the best medium AT guns in Steel Division 2. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button, subscribe, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day.